All right, let's get into that. Was one of our better side tangents. Let's get into
that. Was great.
Obviously, a team that's struggled in the past couple of years, but they've made a couple of improvements on the defensive side of the ball that could be a little frightening for teams around the league. So, where do you feel like they've improved the most on defense?
Yeah, I was thinking when I was writing that write-up of like this defense is frightening, it made me think of So Appalled by Kanye West in that group. And I think it was Pusha T. He goes, frightening, so fucking frightening. Like, that is what I think of when I think of the Denver Broncos defense. They were first in EPA per play allowed, first in EPA per drop back allowed, fourth in EPA per rush allowed, and to break it down further, fourth in PFF defensive grade, 11th in run, 8th in tackling, 5th in pass defense, 7th in coverage. Like, this was the best defense in the league last year. And that was encapsulated with Patrick Surtain winning Rookie of the Year. He had an awesome season. You know, I had Zach Bond over him because I think Zach Bond meant more to that Eagles defense and was really the pillar of that defense, and he doesn't get enough credit. But Pat Surtain locked up the best receivers week in and week out and did not get beat by the best receivers on a consistent basis. It was just a freak. And with that, the pass rush was sick too. I mean, Zach Allen broke out. Nick Bonito broke out. Both of them posted career highs in pressures, sacks, and stops plus TFLs in the run game. Pressure rate, Zach Allen posted a career high. Nick Bonito was a little more efficient last year than he was this year, but he was still really good. I think he had a 14% pressure rate. The year before, 17, which is elite. But still, both of them were really good. And they were obviously surrounded by John Franklin-Meyer, who was really good, former Jet, as you know. DJ Jones was solid. Jonathan Cooper was good there too. Jonah Ellis is going to start to get more reps, which is great. It's not in my notes, but someone I want to say who's been injured pretty much his entire career and hasn't had a chance to shine. Drew Sanders would be so fucking good in this defense if he could stay healthy. Like, would probably be a top 10 linebacker out the gate, but he's just never on the field. And it's so unfortunate. Like, he blitzes well. He covers well. He's big enough to play on the edge. Like, he's a fun player, and it just sucks he hasn't seen the field. But anyways, we talked about Pat Surtain, who's locked down. But this defense added more talent to an already really good defense. They get Talanoa Hufanga from the 49ers, who was friggin' awesome in 2023, had a share of injuries in 2024. Same thing with Dre Greenlaw, another 49ers player, linebacker, obviously had an Achilles tear running out to go on the field during the Super Bowl, which is just another one of those like chief taboo moments, like just happened, you know, or voodoo moments. Sorry, not taboo. But, you know, then they get Brandon Jones from the Dolphins. He's a really good safety as well. They draft Jahdae Barron with their first round pick. I like Jaquan McMillan, but Jahdae Barron's going to be a damn good nickel on this defense. So hopefully he can find a spot at like strong safety or maybe even free safety in some situations. Savion Jones, defensive tackle, is pretty good. And Q Robinson out of Alabama as an edge was picked in the 4th round. Like, I agree with the 4th round value, but he is a damn good pass rusher, man. Like, he's not a good run defender, but as a designated pass rusher, he is really fun to watch, get to work. And I think he's perfect for what this defense kind of needed to take them to the next level. Like, yeah, small sample size for him as rookie year. He'll probably be 200 snaps, maybe pushing 3, but he's going to be a really good pass rusher for them for a long time. Think like Baron Browning, who's now in the Cardinals, like that kind of player that you're going to get out of Q.
Absolutely. And on the offensive side of the ball, Bo Nix, year 2. What do you like out of him? Are you feeling, may I ask, Bodacious this year?
I am feeling Bodacious. In my first watch through Bo, I really liked him. And then in my second watch through, I was kind of like, does this really translate to the NFL? I kind of, dropped him down my rankings quite a bit. And obviously it did translate to the NFL. He still struggles under pressure and, isn't able to avoid sacks as much as other quarterbacks. He had a 25+% pressure to sack rate, which is kind of bad. But outside of that, was a good quarterback. And we can see that in how this offense progressed throughout the season. And obviously I had this team ranked as the 3rd worst team coming into last season, and they proved me wrong in every which way. And that started with Bo Nix, right? So over the course of the season, they were 16th and 17th in EPA per play and drop back and rush EPA. But in the final third of the season, They were 7th in EPA per play and per dropback and 14th in EPA per rush, despite having a really shallow running back room. So really good to see from Bo Nix kind of lead this offense and push them to where they need to get to. Cortland Sutton is going to be the wide receiver 1, and he's a good wide receiver 1. Now he's got another year in the Sean Payton offense. He should be taking his game to another level and have a career year. I think he's entering year 9, which is crazy to say because he was a 2017 draft pick, if I'm not mistaken, and was one of my favorites in that class. Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant are going to compete for wide receiver 2 reps. I lean more towards Troy Franklin, but I've been hearing awesome things about Pat Bryant. So maybe they'll swap and they'll switch picks. I just love Troy because I think he's a good intermediate route runner, and him and Bo have that connection from Oregon. So I thought it was a good process to pick him. We'll see what his role is this year and how he plays into that. Evan Ingram picked up a free agency. He's going to play that joker or big slot role in the Sean Payton offense, and he's going to have another big year. I don't think we've seen the best of Evan Ingram yet, and that might happen this year. Marvin Mims is also someone who could plug into the slot. Obviously had some massive plays at the end of last season that helped get them into the playoffs. He's going to have a big year as well, I believe. And their rushing attack improved. They added J.K. Dobbins, who's one of the most efficient rushers per carry, and R.J. Harvey, who is J.K. Dobbins' clone. Like, if you want J.K. Dobbins, like, you know what's crazy? They're almost the same age. R.J. Harvey's 24. I believe Dobbins is 26 or 25. Which is wild to say that. But, you know, both are good and both are similar and will provide a home run juice that this offense was missing in the run game from last year. And then this offensive line was one of the best in the NFL last season. I think PFF had them 7th or 6th, maybe even a little bit higher. I was not high in the offensive line. Obviously, they proved me wrong. This is going to be a really, really good offense and a damn good defense. You know, it's going to be fun to see who ends up being better. I obviously lean the defense just because of who they added and how good they already were. But this offense, I think, is going to take that next step. And Bo Nix is the perfect quarterback for Sean Payton, minus, obviously, Drew Brees.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned him, but your dark horse, Troy Franklin, the wide receiver. Where do you feel like he's really going to excel?
I think if they use him in the intermediate to short range more, that's where his game is going to evolve, because coming out of college, and I can see the process of why they threw him to the fire the way they did with deep passes, but he really struggled tracking the ball in college during his time at Oregon, especially go balls. Like, he would have 2 to 3 yards on the DB, and like half the deep balls that he would have right here, he would drop because he just struggled looking over his shoulder and tracking the ball in, right? So that was a big kind of hang up he had in college. The Broncos, that was his most used route. 40% of his targets came 20-plus yards downfield on post, corners, go routes, and deep crossing routes. Like, that's not his strength, but I understand why they kind of did that, because they didn't need him to be a guy last year. So they said, hey, when you get your reps, we're going to send you deep. Have fun with it. Like, use your speed. And sometimes he came down with it, but the majority of the time he didn't, and he just dropped it. I mean, I think the first significant game action he got, I played him in my starting lineup because I knew he was going to get a lot of snaps because they were pretty injured. And I think the first target he got was a 50-yard bomb against the Chargers. He's in the middle of the end zone, and it just drops right out of his hands. And I was so mad. I was like, oh, my God. But either way, with those 40% of targets, another 30% of those came behind the line of scrimmage. So 70% of his targets were either way downfield or were on a screen. So it's like, do you know how to use this guy? I think they do. I just think they wanted to get him used to doing unconventional things that he's not, just to see where he was at in his development.
Yeah.
So I think coming into year 2, in a competition with Pat Bryant, which it looks like Troy's going to win early on, but Pat might win later on in the season. I think if they use him on those intermediate routes, over the middle of the field and on the deep outs and stuff like that, like, that's where we're going to see Troy Franklin thrive, because that's what he did really well at Oregon. And he ran a really diverse route tree. One of the most diverse I saw in that class that I scouted. Like, Malik Neighbors did not run nearly as diverse of a route tree that he did, but Malik Neighbors obviously more talented. So it's like, he was able to expand on that route tree in the NFL. Troy Franklin is like kind of a tier 2 receiver in that aspect, where he has that ability to run a lot of routes, but he obviously is better in one area of the field than the other two. So I hope that Bo Nix and Troy connection can continue like it did at Oregon in the NFL. And that's why he's my dark horse, because I think a lot of people aren't talking about him, especially because he was like a fourth or fifth string wide receiver last year. And now he's pushing for wide receiver 2 reps. And I would love to see him go off this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the big burning question for the Denver Broncos, can they steal a division title from the Chiefs? And I kind of want to add a second part to this question. If they can steal a division title from the Chiefs, would they have to beat the Chiefs twice?
Yes. And I say this because...
Yes to both parts?
Yes to both parts. I think they can, and they have to beat the Chiefs twice in order to do it. And here's why. They almost beat the Chiefs, if not for a blocked field goal. And the only other time they saw the Chiefs was when the Chiefs were resting everybody, so they got an easy win in Week 18. So the only game we've seen of them going head-to-head with Bo Nix and Pat Mahomes and how good this defense is and where this offense is improving was a special teams play that ended the game, right? Like, and it was a low-scoring game. I think it was like 16-13 or something like that. But I think they can win the division if the Chiefs don't take the strides on offense that they're looking for. This defense plays similar to the last year, and the Broncos make good on their additions. Like, if all their additions hit, like, we're looking at a team who could be top 5 in the NFL this year, just in terms of depth and talent on both sides of the ball. Like, they are set up really, really nicely. And Sean Payton is one of the brightest offensive minds. Vance Joseph is a great defensive mind as well, and has the guys to run the exact defense that he wants to run. Like, the Chiefs are the only thing holding this team back from top 5 stardom. Like, and that's not hyperbole. Like, this could legitimately be one of the best teams in the NFL. And I think it all hangs on Bo Nix and making sure he progresses the right way. Because we talk about the sophomore slump a lot, and a lot of what he struggled with last year are signs for a sophomore slump. So if he can overcome those signs and add a level to his game and do better against pressure, because teams are going to know how to pressure him now, like, I think he's going to be really solid, and they're going to be a really damn good team.